Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app, on Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. On Android, we're recommending Spotify. Check out the 5 Reasons YouTube channel for all the content around South Florida sports. 3 yards per carry is going to be going live now on YouTube starting this season. So you're going to want to be subscribed there. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's the place for the most heat anywhere. We got to get Alf on there. Most heat information, conversation, and more. 10 different channels, plus stage shows. Eternal telling you what channel you should post in. It's great. You get off of Twitter, don't have to deal with the politics. Again, the most heat anywhere. Link right here in the description. You'll bypass the Apple upcharge, pay the $2.99 a month. When you don't like us, you can cancel at any time. Also, check out Prize Picks. Use the code 5FIVE, legal in the state of Florida, where many other things are not. Put down $5. You get $50 to play right away. Play WNBA, MLB as we're getting ready for NFL, NBA, and NHL again. Check it out. It's prizepicks.com. Use the code FIVE. And now today's throwback episode.
Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah, Mercy and Lago, down to Biscayne, yay, 5 on the floor. Ride for my dogs, where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frauds. Down to Biscayne. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, Inspire have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
I feel like we all should be sipping a drink. Bring back that famous photo. Today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Alex Toledo. He still has decided to call himself Tropical Blanket. Follow him there. And we got Alphonse Sidney, who no longer lives in the 954. He's in the 404, but he still calls himself the 954 and still the Heat Twitter president, even though he hasn't held that role for many years. Alf, from Miami Heat Beat and Parts Unknown, we appreciate you joining us today. And you're on mute. That's a good way to start.
Sorry. Look at that. Just like old times. No, I'm actually Pistons Twitter president now. So
Pistons Twitter president. Why is that? Why did that happen?
Got to follow my boy Duncan.
Oh,
Pistons lifer.
I understand. Okay, let's start there, and then we'll go on from there. The topic of this episode, by the way, it's never going to stay here, but it is what is the reasonable expectation for this season and the 2 seasons that follow. But let's start with Dunk. I kind of feel like you and Sean Rochester were like 2 biggest Duncan Robinson supporters out there. How did you feel? I mean, what was the immediate emotion when Dunk finally moved on? He's no longer still here. I can't say that at Media Day this year.
I mean, just yeah, he was probably looking forward to that comment this year. No, just on a basketball standpoint, it was time. I've talked about this on Heat Beat plenty of times. Duncan Robinson became a luxury they can no longer afford, right? Like, Duncan Robinson's a really good piece on a good team. On a bad team, he's just like a liability. He's just basically a compiler. Like, he just doesn't do what they need him to do. Now, and even his contract, people talk about his contract. His contract wasn't really that bad for a guy who started at shooting guard for most of his 5 years. Like, it's a good contract. But it just, basketball-wise, they needed more than what Duncan could offer. They had way too many holes to just have a specialist on their roster, especially one that was taking up that many minutes. But as far as the transaction, I thought it was terrible. I mean, because you had to somehow with one of these guys, Gabe, Caleb, Max, Duncan, you had to get something for one of them. Like, for God's sake, one of them. Like, we did get that second round pick for Max.
Get that
I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
Don't forget that one. That's right.
Oh, and we got Bonaduccio, whatever his name is. Like, it's just, to me, it's just, and listen, I know we're not going to go into the front office on this episode, but
we can go anywhere, Alf. I got nowhere to be.
Once again, mismanagement of an asset, right? Like, best 3-point shooter in the history of your franchise, and you get Fanabucci. Like, what are we doing here? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I just feel like on that
Go
side.
Go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
No,
Sorry.
just
I just feel on that side of it they fumbled.
No, it's a quick like add-on to Alf's point of like, you know, they developed all these undrafted guys, Caleb, Max, Gabe, Duncan, and like that second round pick that they got in the Max sign and trade, they flipped, I believe, as a part of the Jimmy trade, and then they've got one for the Thomas Bryant trade, right? And then flipped that one for Davion. So in a weird way, like they ended up with Davion and Fotekio, right? Like if you really want to,
no. Do not give them Davion. Don't give them Davion because that's a Thomas Bryant thing. You're doing.
But they couldn't have gotten Davion without that first one from the Max. But either way, your point is right. I'm with your point overall. But like, if we're gonna do the sip the Kool-Aid stuff, that's an easy one there that's been missed. It's an easy angle there that we haven't even covered yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so but you said something, Alf, that I want to follow on because you used the term "if you're going to be a bad team," and before you came on, you characterized this sort of as that. Now they just acquired a 20-plus point scorer on very high efficiency for really, no disrespect to Kyle Anderson, Slow-Mo, or K-Love, for really nothing. I mean, that is, I mean, we agree that particular deal, I won't throw it into the Jimmy trade for this purposes of this and get Alex all upset again. But for the purposes of this podcast, that deal just on its own, good deal, right? You agree it's a good deal.
Oh, fantastic move. Like no brainer, right?
Okay.
Okay.
So are they still a bad team then? Do you still think this is a bad team? Okay.
Yes. You don't add Norm Powell to a team that got historically skull drugged by the Cavs last year and say, well, now we're at 4 seed. Like I like Norman Powell. It's a fantastic move. Like it's one of those moves that would have happened last year and another team would have done. And we would have looked around and said, that's all it took to get Norm Powell? Right. We finally made one of those moves. Like, so this move, the Davion Mitchell move, fantastic moves. And you know when that would have been a really good move? When you had Jimmy Butler. Like, that would have been a great time to make moves like that. We never did that. We're just like, we have Caleb Martin. What do we need Norm Powell for? Like, so all these great moves that they're doing, Davion, fantastic move. What was it? PJ Tucker and a second rounder.
Yeah, they were never keeping PJ anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, and then you got Norm Powell for. Remember, we weren't even going to keep Slow-Mo. Like I don't remember what happened, how we ended up keeping him. And thank God he's off the team because Spo has to play him. If he's there, Spo's going to play Slow-Mo, right? So thank God, like we just took that tool out of Spo's belt. But like these are fantastic moves. But if you're telling me, if you're saying these moves are going to make this team a contender, like get out of here. Like what are we talking about?
Okay, so how much of, and I'll let Alex jump into this, but I know from following you, obviously, and knowing you, that you respect Spo a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
But you are allowed to do this. I think fans don't understand this. You are allowed to respect the coach and also disagree with a lot of the things that he does. It seems like a premium frustration of yours with Spo is overplaying certain guys, sort of going old habits. I know Terry was our big issue last year. I still don't understand any of that. Do you think Spo will actually, like, if they're going to go young, like this is the idea. I know the organization wants to go young. They want to lean into their young players. I've been told that. You can see it from the majority of it. Norm Powell, yes, he's 32, but he's in the last year of his contract. He doesn't have a ton of wear on him. And I don't think he's going to take away minutes necessarily from guys who were going to pop this year. And getting Kyle Anderson off the roster, with all due respect, keeps him from playing ahead of Jovic, which was one of my concerns. That first time Nico made a mistake, you're going to see Kyle Anderson for the next 10 games. Do you think Spo will actually lean young? Do you think he plays young players? It's not true that he doesn't, but do you think he would actually lean as a roster young and let them play through mistakes?
See, okay, so I always have this difference with young, right? Like some people, when they say lean young, they want to play Isaiah Stevens and Kashad Johnson 40 minutes a game. Like, calm down. Like, that ain't the young I'm talking about. I'm talking about guys like where if Jaime is on the team, you got to keep playing him, right? Because what are you doing? What are you playing for? Jovic especially. So that, like you said, with the Norm Powell thing, like Norm doesn't really get in the way of the guys that we really want to see. Like if you want to make the case for him getting in the way of Casper, that's all I'm going to call him because he needs to make a couple more buckets before I learn his name. 1 for 15, your name is Casper. Norm might get in the way of some Casper minutes, but that dude ain't ready to play in the NBA anyway. All right, go chill in Sioux Falls for a little bit.
Oh man, we're doing this again. We're doing this again. We're writing him off.
When have I been wrong? When have I been wrong? Okay,
he's right, Alex. By the way, he's right on this. I think this is half a season in Sioux Falls. This is going to be a lot of trips.
Oh no! Hold on. I'm not disagreeing that he's going to be in Sioux. I'm with you. I literally said it on the last podcast. I'm like Casper, like with the Norm Powell trade, with like what's taking place, with the fact that they got like another guy that Spo is inevitably going to play in Fontecchio. The fact that there are other young players, again, not at his position, but in general, just taking up spots, in the rotation. I don't think Casper is going to play much this year. Now, none of those, it shouldn't be because of Terry freaking Rozier, right? Like, that's an obvious one.
Yeah.
But just in general, like, you added a guy, again, Norm is not a point guard, obviously, but you added a guy who's going to play somewhere around 30 minutes per game, right? You already have another guy in Herro playing 30-plus minutes per game. Davion's going to play 25-plus minutes per game. Just off of that alone, no matter who else you think is going to be in the rotation there in the backcourt and at the wing, like I just think there's not much left for Casper there. And then I think the only other way that you can nitpick the trade, because the trade itself is obviously awesome value wise, is like if you went into this thinking, okay, this is the year that they do the soft tank and end up in the top 10 lottery odds, and maybe they move up, maybe they don't, but this is the year for that. That's they could still end up there, but the odds of like ending up with a top 10 pick, obviously,
but they're not going to do that though. They're not going to do that, right? Like we know that. I understand it may be what you want, but they're not going to do that.
I'm not advocating for that. That's not my point. My point is that like if you look at the standings from last year and you look at all the teams that weren't in the play-in or in the playoffs, all these teams that were dealing with injuries and like are projected to be back in there now, the Heat could have stumbled into that. Not done that, not done anything drastic, not shut down Bam and Tyler for half the year like people are suggesting. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm not talking about any sort of red button. I'm talking about them just being average to below average, stumbling into a top 10 lottery odds because there are a lot of good teams in the NBA. And when you just look at like the really bad teams, once you knock off, the Hornets, the Wizards, the Jazz, et cetera, it's like, wait, that's only like 4 or 5 teams, right? Like there's other teams. I mean, the Nets, obviously, but like, from there, like the Heat could have easily ended up with a top 10 pick. Now, I'm not saying that's what they were going to do. That's what they were not going to do. But that is the one like nitpick. It's like if you had any hope of that happening, the chances of that just went down because they added a really good player without giving up anything of notice. I mean, of note.
To me, Norm Powell doesn't really change that conversation too much. To me, they still exist in the play-in, okay? And they could quite like realistically lose the play-in, even though the greatest play-in tournament team of all time.
No, I'm with you. I don't think they're going to be a 4 seed or anything. I just feel like if you, let's say Herro had an awesome like season last year health wise, right? If he just goes back to, he misses a chunk of games.
But that's what I'm saying.
But Alex, just to break in here, I don't think we can't.
I'm not saying they shouldn't have made this move. I'm not making that argument.
I'm saying, we can't have it both ways where we say never go make an we want you to make opportunistic moves to make the team better without having to give up assets and while collecting assets. And at the same time, then we make a move or they make a move. And then it's like, well, okay, but now this takes you out of potentially slipping behind these teams. I don't think we can do that because we know, again, that's not going to be their direction. And if they were close to a high lottery pick, Alex, they would trade for someone at the deadline next year to get them out of it. That. Yeah. Like that's just the direction that they're going to go. They don't believe in it. And I almost think they believe to a certain degree. And again, this is organizational philosophy that's almost beneath them. They don't want to be on the lottery stage. They don't like it. It's not who they are. Okay. And the Spurs have been willing to do it at times and still be one of the top 5 teams.
And notice how they didn't
do like one of those teams also.
They didn't bottom out and tank either. You know what I mean? Like, I just think the conversation between like what they should do in these transition years sometimes becomes a little bit too binary. It's like, well, yeah, the Heat are not going to. I know the Heat are not going to tank. Nobody's advocating for the Heat to tank. I'm not advocating for the Heat to tank. I'm just trying to give out that perspective about like what the Powell trade, like how it affects this transition era that they're clearly in right now. You know what I mean? Like it's like I knew that they were going to go this way. Like we all had talked about like a DeMar DeRozan type of trade. Like I'm not surprised by it. It's a great trade. Again, I'm just saying like it goes to show like it's very much a Heat move with like the way that they're building. You know what I mean? In this transition era.
In my opinion, this still fits into a soft reset, right? because I don't think they got appreciably better, right? And then they're still talking about doing things like trading Wiggins. Yeah, and like they didn't give up any assets, which still fits into the soft rebuild. They're talking about doing things like trading Wiggins, and they won't move off of Wiggins without a first round pick, which I am completely aligned on. Like, that is the right mentality, because by the deadline, somebody's going to be desperate for a two-way guy, right? So if they don't want to give it up now, somebody will give it up by the deadline, right?
And even Rozier's contract may have value at the deadline, just as a contract, right?
As an expiring. And then also, and look, you gave up Slow-Mo and Kevin Love for Norm. If by the deadline, this team is middling around a 9, 10, 8 seed,
you move Norm.
Is Norm not a great trade asset as well? Like, so to me,
and it works in other ways too. If you decide another guy, like if isn't worth the extension, you know what I mean? Like, again, it's a great trade for a lot of reasons.
Yes. So now
that's really like the one.
Hold that, because that's going to be part 2 of this episode. Yes.
Okay, yeah, because larger picture. Now we're talking about something completely different.
All right, so let's do it. Let's get into larger picture on the other side of this. Before we do, I want to tell you about Lynette, one of our favorite people, one of our big fans here at 5 on the Floor. I'm not sure why, but she is 954-581-8800. Homeowners insurance, life insurance, especially car insurance. You got a bad driving record, reach out to her right away. She's based in Lauderhill, sort of northwest Broward County, but can service the entire area. Just tell her that we sent you, and then get out of the way too, because again, I don't know that that's great. But again, you can find her as well on our Discord, on Off the Floor, on Playback. She follows the podcast as well when we go live. Reach out to her directly in the chat. Say, hey, I need car insurance, and she'll have it for you the next day. 954-581-8800. Again, it's insurancebyLynette.com. 2 N's and 2 T's. All right, so let's get to the bigger question here, okay? Bam has been extended. It's done. Let me ask you this question before we get to the next one. In retrospect, they gave Bam the extension early, if you recall. They did it because he wanted to do it that way. It took away about $13 million they could have spent that summer. What's done is done. Okay, he's the captain, and obviously he's been a pillar in the community and a great representative of the organization. Before we get to the next guy, do you have any regrets looking back, or should the organization have any regrets about maxing him?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Just defensive side of the floor, he is a super max player, okay? Like, and then offensively, he gives you enough that you can't play. Like, he's not Rudy Gobert where you can play him off the floor in the fourth quarter. Like, I've never seen Bam benched in any situation for any reason, right? No. He is good enough offensively, and to me, he is still the best defender in the NBA because of everything he does on the floor. So, yeah, to me, super max guy. Whatever you give him, he's a, like you said, pillar of the community, but he's a foundation of a championship team, and I'm not afraid to say that. Okay, so let's get to the next one, and the same question I asked Tobin. All right. Tyler Herro clearly wants to be maxed. Like and credit to him again for playing the 75 games, putting the fragile comment, using it as fuel, everything that he did last season. And we've given him his flowers about all that. Okay. But now you pivot to this season and he's not demanding the extension now. That's also good. You're not dealing with a Jimmy-like distraction like he dealt with last year. But he also said it's going to cost him more next season. So it's clear where his head's at, okay? And if he wants to play for that, then that could benefit the Heat also if he's going to play at as high as possible level. With that said, what is the highest number that you would go to him with per season? Me? That's a bad question to ask me. No, that's why I'm asking you, because I know you have a different response than Tobin. Go ahead. No, we take all here. 30? Okay. I would listen. And that's what he's making now. Exactly. And you cannot cripple your cap with Tyler Herro, right? Like he's another one who's a little bit of a luxury, right? They need so much. They need so much. And giving Tyler Herro $45 million, $50 million, God forbid, like puts you in a place where you can't improve this team. Like, listen, we can keep talking about cap space all we want. But that is such an antiquated way of team building at this point because nobody hits free agency. What, you think Miles Turner is going to turn this thing around? Right. Like the value in Tyler Herro right now, in my opinion, before he gets extended, because I don't think you can afford to extend him at $50 million, see what you can get in draft capital for him. Because the currency for you to actually improve this team in a significant way, nowadays, I mean, we're all watching. You need first-round picks. Mm-hmm. And outside of Wiggins that might get you one, the only people on this team that are going to get you first rounders, maybe Norm at the deadline, which I doubt that even. Tyler Herro might get you one or two. Bam might get you 3 or 4. I'm not trading Bam for any reason, but if I was going to do something, it would be get some draft capital for Tyler before you have to give him an extension. And no shade to Tyler. I just don't think Bam and Tyler as your top 2 paid players is a championship contending team. I just don't.
All right. So I'm going to let Alex jump in a second, but I'm in agreement with you in general about that. Okay. About that. You can't have the top 2 guys making $100 million. You're not going anywhere. Particularly because it doesn't look like the increases are going to be as large as maybe was thought before. With that said, I would go to him with, I've said like something in the range of what's a 25% raise, which is like 3 for 110. That would be my, I think Tobin yesterday said 3 for 100. I don't think he's going to take either. Now, looking at his archetype, there's been a lot of conversations about that. All of those guys have been traded this offseason. Jordan Poole, Anthony Simons has been traded once, and now Boston wants to do it again. Desmond Bane has been traded. He commanded more, but I think people make too much of the 4 first-round picks because it was really 3. They had to take back money that, otherwise KCP and all the rest of this. Okay. So if you're telling me if a team came to you and said, we're going to give you matching salary and 1 first for Tyler, you don't have to deal with the extension with him anymore. But matching salary is not elite talent. You're getting rotation players. Would you do it for 1 first-round pick?
Hell yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm doing it. I'm doing like if I can get that one. Because here's the thing, I'm looking at holistically. If I can get 1 for Wiggins, 1 for Tyler, I think we have 3 tradables now. You put yourself in a position where an Anthony Edwards decides to shake loose in the next year and a half. You are finally in position with good contracts and a treasure trove of draft picks to make that really big move that they've been trying to make for nickels and dimes the last couple of years. Like they keep getting into these conversations and they keep getting outbid. Why? Not because nobody wants to play in Miami or everybody hates Pat, which is these nonsense narratives that fly around.
Yes.
It's because they don't have the draft capital. And are we going to keep running this stupid nonsense hamster wheel where we just never amass any draft capital? Like this, extend Tyler Herro. Don't get any draft picks for him. Anthony Edwards shakes loose. You're here. I have 2 first-round picks in Jovic. Like it's laughable. You're never going to be in these conversations, and you're never going to trade Herro for a superstar either. So get that BS out of your head. I almost cursed. I'm sorry.
No, we allow it occasionally.
Okay, I thought I was on hangover time. I didn't want.
No, well, we have fun sec.
I didn't want Lynette to get mad at me.
Brian can't go 3 words without cursing. All right, Alex, your thoughts on what Alf said?
So it's really interesting because I don't think they're going to extend him anytime soon. Not when he becomes eligible, and it was kind of obvious just by everything that was said after the season was over. Not only by him but by Pat, where it's like, yeah, he's cool. Like he's basically saying, yeah, he's not giving us any pressure about it right now. Like he doesn't mind pushing that off till next summer. And Tyler said that himself. And like I just think there's going to end up being. Like, I think this season is going to be somewhat of an evaluation year for him in a sense. Not all the way, right? Because I'm sure they have, like, a price point for, like, what they'd be willing to give him. But I think they now that they have Norm, right, they're going to be like, hey, let's see, like, how much of that production you can keep up with another guy here who's going to score a lot for us. Let's see how you look. Like, if let's say they're in the same situation. They're in a 7th or 8th seed first round playoff series. Does anything change, right? Like, are we just getting the same Tyler where you're getting one great game and then the rest are just not great because they're taking him out of his comfort spots and he's just not good. Like, I think it'll be like they're going to have that in mind. But in general, like, I'm sure they have an idea of what they'd be willing to give him. And my kind of like, I think what like the ones you were saying there, Ethan, is kind of like the sweet spot for what I think is like a good price for the Heat. But I'm with you. I don't think he's going to accept that. Now, maybe like they start off like trying to get him paid as much as he can. There's no doubt in my mind that the Heat are not going to pay him $50 million per season. So you know what I mean? Like, I don't believe
what's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over, or having you guys on a pod with me like we used to do.
They're not going to pay him $50 million, man. I don't believe that.
But here's the thing. So you've made the decision already. You're not giving him the extension that he wants. You're going to make him run it a prove it year. Have we not seen this movie before? Did we
Hey,
not?
no, I'm not against.
Yeah, but
trading him,
he's not
I
as
just-
petulant as the
Okay.
other
I'm
guy.
not making the case to not
Until
trade
he
him though.
is.
I'm just
Until
trying to
he
say like what I
is.
think the Heat are going to do.
Yeah.
I'm not
No, but here's
against
what I'm
trading him
saying.
for the right price.
But here's the problem with that. Make a decision. You ain't pay, you ain't paying him the money he wants.
I've been saying this for so long. Man.
Make a decision.
no idea.
Pick a direction. Like that's the infuriating thing.
I've been saying this since last summer, man.
They did this nonsense with Jimmy last year. Either give the man the extension, and if like it's like when you're making a big financial decision in your personal life, if you have any hesitancy, walk away from the deal. Walk away from Tyler if you don't think he's worth the money. If you didn't think Jimmy, because they were never going to give Jimmy that money.
I don't know about one
But
pick though. That's where I kind of like one pick just kind of feels like a if you're willing to settle for a pick for Wiggins.
If they get just one pick, you know what the reaction to that's going to be as well. If you had moved Tyler earlier, if you hadn't held on to him until this time, you know what that's going to be. I'm not arguing with you on the premise, and you're right. Okay, in anything, relationships, anything else, if you're hesitating, you're screwed, right? Like that's the thing. Like if you have a little doubt, your intuition says it's not the right decision. It's probably not. I don't know. Here's my thing about it. Okay. He just had a season, his most efficient season. He played the most games that he's ever played. It didn't really translate to winning, although I don't blame him for it in this case because the roster was not very good and everything else that was going on. Although the idea that was in Barry's story about, well, we need to see the roster whole again, which we knew that was coming out. Yes, I know we all had the same reaction to that. But they lost by 92 points the last two games. I saw it.
Full training camp. We knew the full training camp bullshit.
Yeah, I know. And this time I don't even get to go to the Bahamas. I got to watch it in Boca. But look, here's the thing, Al. There's nothing he can really do at this point. He's proven to be healthy. Okay, he just made an all-star team. I don't think there's anything he can. There's huge ways that he can grow to prove he's worth what they may not think he's worth right now. In other words, I don't like, what is it? Have another 75 game season and then do something in the playoffs. I don't know that this team gets to the playoffs. So I'm with you in the fact that we probably have all the information now. Like they probably have all the information now on him. With Jimmy, I think there was a little bit of question because most people, I think, especially driven people, would have reacted to the Heat's posture on that with, I'm going to get on the court and play my ass off and prove to them, okay, and I'm going to earn the money. And I think a lot of people would have done that. Now,
a lot of people, but NBA players, like, what are we talking about here? Come on,
maybe not him.
Jimmy had proven
NBA
NBA
superstars, like,
yeah.
And listen, true. I was mostly on the organization side. I really wish they would have picked a direction. I really turned on Jimmy when he turned on his teammates and coaching staff. But if I'm Jimmy Butler and I've carried your ass for how many years, dragged Caleb Martin and Max Strus to finals appearances, you're going to tell me to prove my worth?
Yeah.
Like at that point, I'm out.
And meanwhile, Tyler wasn't there for literally most of those runs.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I think they haven't closed out a playoff series with Tyler on the floor since like 21 or 22. Like he hasn't been there for any of this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because he hurt himself in the 22 run too. Yeah, that's true.
And you're right.
22.
So the thing is, like, let's not act like Tyler isn't a fully formed player at this point. Is he going to get better on defense? Come on, like, let's be honest with ourselves, right?
Right. I think his improvement now is strictly in terms of making reads, dealing with doubles on offense. But I think defensively he's maxed out. I do agree with that. I don't think there's not a lot of room there physically for him to grow to be much better than he is. He compete. Here's the thing about him, and I give him credit for this. He competes. It's not a competition issue with him. He's not Harden. Like, he's trying. Okay. It's just there are certain limitations there. Now, offensively, he has a skill set that he keeps refining. I think he can get incrementally better there, even better than he was last season. But you're right, the defensive part of it. And my thing is this, and when we had Mike Wallace on, he talked about this, and I'm totally on. The NBA is finally pushing back against the idea that just because you're a good player who's eligible for a max, you should get the max. This is the big problem. And then so teams are now looking at it, and they're looking at the CJ McCollum monstrosity CBA, and they're like, we can't pay a third guy that, right? So if you're going to pay two guys that, they have to be the guys who can get you over the top. And I think we've seen this already with Bam and Tyler. And that's the other reason why I think that the Norm Powell acquisition, it gives them leverage, honestly. But it also creates a weird situation this year where if Norm plays really well, it probably cuts Tyler's price tag for them but yet you're expecting these two guys to log a lot of the minutes in the backcourt together. All right, I want to let you go here at a certain point, so we'll go with this, okay? The organization as a whole, over 30 years, it's hard to argue that any more than 3 or 4 NBA organizations have had more success, okay, in terms of making the playoffs. Right there with basically any team LeBron's played on is included, but you're talking about, San Antonio, which has had some dips, the Lakers to a certain degree. Obviously, Golden State had its run, Boston. There's not a lot, okay, and then the Heat are right there. Do they need major changes in direction in the front office, understanding that this has been a collaborative consensus process for a while? Most Heat fans don't seem to recognize that, but Nick has had final say since 2011, and they've made decisions together. Do they need? Are you okay with the current group? We know what the current group is. It's Pat, it's Mickey, it's Nick, it's Zoe, it's Andy, it's Adam. This is the core. Do they need different voices in there? What's your view on it?
I learned this from you when we were doing the show years ago, and I've said it 1,000 times. Like this idea that Pat, like everyone wants to blame Pat. Like you just said, it's a group of people, it's a brain trust. And what I would say to that is, it feels like there's too many cooks in the kitchen, right? This team has been at its best when they had a singular maniacal focus on winning, right? And that was Pat. It felt like everything emanated from Pat. And then literally since maybe the Mike Miller move, there's been a lot of things that happen that don't feel like Pat anymore. And we've been going along this trend for years, like a decade now, where it doesn't feel like it's all Pat. And there's a lot of these decisions aren't congruous, right? So I feel like what's happening is there's too many different ideas of where we want to go. Some people want a youth movement. Some people want veterans. And it's this dual timeline bullshit that doesn't work. Like it just does. It hasn't panned out. And we can say they've been a mediocre franchise for 3 years. That finals run is like, it was so much fun, but I feel like it led to the biggest delusion I've ever seen around this team, right? This and 30 and 11 are the two most delusional phases.
They got Bam out of 30 and 11. They didn't cheat the basketball gods, and they got Bam, Alf.
Yes, and now they have Casper, who can't get by me. But like it does. So it's from that time, from the time they lost to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, this has been a playing team, and none of the things that they've done since the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics can you say this has been a masterful stroke by a franchise? I mean, Josh Richardson, Thomas Bryant, one off season, like literally until this Davion trade, everything has felt really, really haphazard. It felt disconnected. Like then you look at the roster, it's so disjointed and weird. You got Slow-Mo, but you said Jovic is untouchable, but he's losing minutes to Slow-Mo. Alec Burks is out there. We put Jaime at the end of the bench to the point people were making crazy rumors. Like it doesn't it doesn't make any sense. Like, so to me, when I see something like that, like in my career history, like when I see an organization, a business, anything that lacks clear direction, lacks clear focus, this is the kind of disjointed mess you get into. So at some point, somebody's vision has to be the main vision. If Pat's on some win now stuff, but he's getting win later assets, or he's getting no win assets. Like, hey, go out and get Kevin Durant, but don't pay. I feel like Pat Riley used to just go get the guy. Like there wasn't this line in the sand all the time. Like, but now I feel like he approaches, and I don't know if it's just him.
But how much of that is just to be fair on that? How much of that is the new CBA that doesn't allow them to do business the way they used to?
Having to trade several picks for the star instead of acquiring them in free agency.
Okay, right. But so then you have to adjust. Everyone else is adjusting.
No, I'm with you, man.
And then you walk into these negotiations with one hand tied behind your back because you've already made half the roster untouchable.
Who do you think is done? If you were, it's hard to separate because a lot of it is consensus. But if we were, and I know there's some on Twitter, and I know we're friendly with some of them. We're like, put Adam Simon in charge because he's done the best job with his particular piece. And I'm like, well, just because you make great sushi rolls doesn't mean that you should be running the restaurant, right?
Exactly.
Okay, but it does seem okay. And I know Casper, please, it's been 3 games. Let's give it a little bit of time. He needs half a season at Sioux Falls, okay, and then we'll figure it out after that.
He needs
right?
to touch the ball in summer league is what he needs to do.
Well, that would be nice also. But
please give your point guard prospect the ball. You tried to make Jay Rich and Max Strus into point guards. I remember. I was there.
But Alex,
point guard prospect the freaking ball, dude.
Yeah, every time he gets
Goran Dragic wasn't a regular. Goran Dragic wasn't a regular until he was 26.
He's not
okay? So
I just
want to back off on a little bit of this.
But every time they give him, by the way, every time they give him the ball, he throws it to the other team. So just
right.
You know what? He's a pick and roll point guard, and they don't have anybody screen for him. And then they have Kel'el Ware walking into screens with the too cool for school shit. I'm just. Can we get a
we've gone completely off the summer league rails here. Okay, just to get it back, because my point was not really about Casper. My point here, okay? My point here was about Adam Simon has gotten a lot of credit for his drafting, which has looked pretty good. By the way, that's not a one-man decision either. That's also consensus. It's just that he's leading the group that's scouting. They have lots of other people out there who are doing the work on that. But Jaime had a really good first year. We'll see if he can rebound this year. Ware showed promise in the first year. Looks like they may have drafted him. They might have gotten a steal there. We'll see again how he develops. Okay, Jovic. I know we like Jovic. Okay, again, it's like finding a consistent role for him, but he may end up exceeding his draft position. Bam and Tyler have, whatever you want to say about either of them, have far exceeded their draft positions. Okay, so if that's the case, it does seem to me like what they are best at now. And I'm not saying it's just Adam. I'm not saying put him in charge of the whole thing because, again, sushi rolls don't make the restaurant. But it does seem like going young makes sense for a team that is good at finding young players, right? Like that you can make that case, correct? And that's not been Pat's philosophy over the years. So it is a little bit different.
Yeah, because you have a front office who, we talk about the team being on dual timelines or separate timelines. You have a front office that's on separate timelines. You have Nick Arison, who wants to own this team for another 30 years and is looking at the future. And then you have Pat Riley, who's like, I need to win a championship in the next 2, 3, 4 years, or, it could be a really poor ending to my story, right? So there's a dichotomy in the front office. And so at some point, like I said, I don't care which direction you choose, right? If you decide to go after the vets and be the Golden State Warriors of last year, I'm riding with you because I feel like you have a plan. You decide to go fully young, I'm riding with you because you have a plan. It's just this non-committal nonsense that is happening right now. And it's just like all these guys you just named, Ware, Jaime, and people, I like Ware, but people are a lot higher on Ware than I am.
Yeah, me too.
Jaime, Jovic, I like Jovic, but people are higher on him. These are high-functioning, high-level role players, which you need in today's NBA, right? You absolutely do. But that's what they are. So the thing is, if you want to go all in, let's stop making these guys untouchable, right? Like, or then abandon the Kevin Durant pursuits and stick to what you're good at and go young. It has to be one or the other, right? And if you want to keep going for whales every few years, you got to build up some draft assets. Every once in a while, you got to trade for a first-round pick, a second-round pick. That to me, this is the whole problem, Ethan. It feels like this, like the idea of trading a first-round pick for Terry Rozier, because somebody somewhere thought they were a Terry Rozier away from contending that year. They sucked. They were terrible. Like they weren't a good team. Holding on to Caleb Martin for what? Why? Because you're going to need him in the playoffs?
They almost paid so much money, man.
Yeah, they got saved.
You know me, I'm not one to bring up contracts, but man, they literally they got so lucky with the Caleb stuff.
I brought up Max and Gabe. I brought up Max and Gabe earlier, but I don't really have a lot of because you were going for it still, and you had Max and Gabe. It didn't make sense to just jettison those guys. But since then, like the Caleb one still, I was saying he looked like Scottie Pippen in the Eastern Conference Finals. You could have got something for him. But like they just didn't, and like they ran with Caleb Martin, they traded for Terry Rozier. Like these are not competent franchise moves, right?
That's why the Norm Powell move to me, and I can't escape from the Rozier thing because I was in favor of it at the time too, but I think it's partly because we just wanted new. But I will say this on it. Okay, the Norm Powell move to me is a shift in the sense of this is a player who has gotten better, but got his numbers contributing to winning on what was a pretty good team in part because of him. And that's very different from Rozier. And I think the
a lot of
lesson
people were
has
making the
been
case
learned.
that he was the all-star in his team, not Harden. Like that was
right. And if you look at his numbers before he had an injury prior to the All-Star break, like his numbers were elite. And I'm not saying he's a superstar, but I'm saying, okay, I have more confidence in that translating than I should have had in somebody stat padding on Charlotte. Like, and I think that's the lesson to be learned here is like, just ignore the Looter and a Riot numbers. Like that's it. Like they don't matter. And the Heat have never really gone for that kind of player before. And that was different. Ricky Davis is the only one I can come up with, honestly.
I don't think Terry like being bad means that you should never trade for a player on a bad team because like PJ Washington.
Never trade from someone from Charlotte.
Never trade a first round pick
PJ Washington
for him.
was in the finals helping the Mavs. Like I don't. We don't got to do the black and white stuff.
The ball wasn't in his hands all the time. That's
and honestly, I don't even care about bringing in Terry Rozier. But it's paying a first round pick for him in the day and age where first round picks are gold, bro. Like that's the part that drives me nuts.
They held on to that pick. Like they didn't want to trade picks for years throughout the Jimmy era, but then like Terry was the guy that they ended up finally budging on. That's what I really. It just feels like a kind of an inconsistency there with their.
You're all going to be wrong when Terry wins Most Improved Player this year. All right, I got to let you go. We're 41 minutes, 42 minutes. Alf, we didn't even had any scotch or whatever it is. Appreciate you joining us.
Get me on a post game show. I'll be all over.
I'll find you on one of those Summer League post game after Casper gets his second field. Alex, appreciate it. InsuranceByLynette.com. Prize Picks. Use the code FIVE. We'll see Alf again. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.